I think when you're having these conversations, what I have found, even when I meet with people who come into the conversation ready for a fight, when you listen first, and if they're communicating in good faith, then you can have a true and real conversation that is based on respect. You can respect where someone's coming from even if you disagree with them. And then share your own experience, share your own thoughts, share what's on your heart with them. And again, if it's a good faith conversation, then it will flourish from there. If they're not interested in having a conversation, it's not worth confronting them with.
Thank you so much.
No
Appreciate
problem.
it. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.
Hey, so I'm currently undecided.
Yeah, just try to talk right in the mic, okay?
Gotcha. So I'm currently undecided in the election. And so my main issue that would be the turning point for me in voting for Trump over Kamala Harris would be essentially just corruption and corporate money in government, which is my biggest issue by far. And from all of the research I've done, it seems to consistently point to the same amount of money being sent to both political parties. So I'd like to hear your argument as a Republican for voting for Trump in that regard.
I mean, I can tell you, I don't have the actual numbers on the top of mind, but I'll take Big Pharma as one example. Their capture of the FDA and so many of these agencies that are supposed to be looking out for us are actually looking out for Big Pharma. And when you look at the amount of money that's been given to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, it far outweighs by many multiples of 10 how much has been given to the Republican Party, first of all. Second of all, Trump has spoken to this specific issue directly in his podcast with Theo Vaughn, specifically about Big Pharma and his willingness to take them on. President Trump isn't looking for handouts from big corporations at all. He's shown that he is ready to take on, not only through his own actions, by bringing people together like Bobby Kennedy, who's dedicated his entire life to taking on these big industries, that he is serious about taking our government back and putting it back into the hands of the people.
Right,
Yeah.
so I understand that, but to me, there's just two sides to this. From what I've seen, it tends to be that, yes, like you said, Big Pharma does give a significantly larger amount of money to the Democratic Party. But from what I've seen, companies like oil companies, for example, will give a significantly larger amount to the Republican Party. So in my mind, it honestly just seems like a choice between which corporations I'd rather win, and I'm just not a big fan of that.
Okay, so a couple things though. Trump has said that no lobbyist will be part of his transition team, which is very important. So the personnel, you know who is? Tulsi Gabbard is part of his transition team. And I just want to brag on Tulsi for a second. Tulsi ran for president as a Democrat and was the co-chair of the Democrat National Party. She wrote an amazing book that you should check out and read, where she saw not just the corruption from corporations, but how corporations have merged with government and then are repressing our free speech rights. So you look at what the Democrat Party has become. They are shameless in wanting the FBI and the Department of Justice to try to interfere on their behalf to try to get a specific result, where Donald Trump is the victim of that sort of administrative state lawfare persecution. Secondly, and I think this is a really important thing, is, and I'd ask you, what issue would you say is the most important to make sure that corporate influence is diminished? Maybe foreign policy, like war, would probably be a big one, right? I could say confidently, and it's not even close, Kamala Harris is out raising money 10-1 from the war machine versus Donald Trump. She had Leon Panetta speak at her convention. Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney have endorsed her. The warmongers that gave us the Iraq War and the Afghanistan War are her senior advisors now of her inner circle. And so I will say that you're never going to find a perfect candidate with the issue you care about, because unfortunately you have to raise a lot of money to be able to compete. However, on the issue that I think is one of the most important, are people getting rich off the suffering and the death of others through declaring and invading wars? It's not even close. Kamala Harris is financing her campaign from Halliburton, from Boeing, from Lockheed Martin, and Northrop Grumman.
Right, so I definitely understand that. That's a great argument. I get that they do have to raise money, and I would say that, yeah, my biggest issue would be in terms of war and Big Pharma specifically, like she was talking about. So, yeah, that would end up leaning me towards the Republican Party, despite myself being a liberal. So, yeah, I think those are some great points. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Great
Think about that.
questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Give it up for him. That was a great in-faith question, wasn't it? It was great. Okay, disagreements or just questions in general? Yeah, come on up. Anybody? Sure? Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for your service, Miss Gabbard, for anything. I just have one question related to the election for you. How can you endorse someone who lost the last election fair and square? There's no evidence.
Let him finish, guys.
Republican secretaries of state claimed it was fair. Trump tried to leverage the Georgia Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger. He said, find me 11,700 votes. He has no respect for losing in our system. And what happened on January 6th happened on January 6th. A disaster. Our capital got stormed for the first time since 1812. You people claim to love America. Like, how does that not fire you up?
All right, so it's a fair question. So let's talk through a couple elements of this. First, do you think the CIA should involve itself in American elections?
No.
Okay, so it did in 2020.
Show me proof.
Okay, well, Tulsi Gabbard knows this. She could tell you 50 intel officials colluded, led by Tony Blinken, due to declassified emails, signing an open letter calling the Hunter Biden laptop
So
Russian.
why weren't any of the lawsuits
Let me
successful?
finish. I did not. Hold on.
He raised plenty of them.
Hold on a second. I didn't interrupt you, right? So let me finish. 50 intel officials, current and former, signed a letter that was used to censor on social media the fact that there is a laptop owned by Hunter Biden that showed very suspicious and criminal activity by both Hunter and Joe Biden. According to the Media Research Center, 1 out of 4 voters in swing states would have changed their vote if they would have known about the Hunter Biden
That's
laptop.
an utter ridiculous statement
Well,
to make.
I just cited it.
He lost by 7 million votes.
Well, hold on. No. He lost by
And the popular vote.
42,000 votes across 3 states. Hold on, pal. How much did he lose Arizona by?
Okay.
No. Hold on. How much did he lose this state by?
It's not about the final score. It's
10?
a winner and a
No,
loser.
hold
He
on.
lost.
No,
That's how our system works.
We have an electoral college system.
Yeah.
So how
who
much?
got the electoral votes?
No, of course Biden did. But what was
Yeah.
the margin in Arizona?
I don't know.
It was
It's
10,000
not
votes.
in the back of my head.
Yeah. So how much in Georgia?
It was 11,700. That's what he told Raffensperger to find
and
him.
in Wisconsin, it was
A Republican
Let
who
me
denounces
finish.
them.
And in Wisconsin, it was 21,000, right? So it was actually 42,000, not 7 million. So when you're talking about the CIA and the Department of Justice signing a letter that was then used to, I did not have my Twitter account for 30 days. We were not allowed to mention the Hunter Biden
Because
laptop.
you violated a private company's privacy.
Well, no,
like,
actually, I
own
didn't.
guidelines.
It's actually
yes, you did.
no, because of the Twitter files, thanks to Elon Musk. We now know the FBI told Twitter to say you are not allowed to mention the Hunter Biden laptop. Am I correct in this, Tulsi?
That's correct.
And
So you don't trust the FBI at all?
Well,
People who
not
have
at all.
devoted
No.
their life to civil service.
That's a red herring. I'm saying in that instance, Yoel Roth. Do you know who Yoel Roth was?
I don't know.
Yeah,
who
okay.
Roth
Yoel
is.
Roth was the head of security, trust, and safety for Twitter that had what's called a standing room meeting every Tuesday with the Federal Bureau of Investigation in San Francisco, where they met about Russian threats to American interference of elections, and they said this laptop is not allowed to be discussed on your platform. That impacted our election. People made their decisions differently in 2020, not knowing the full picture that this laptop existed, and that was the October surprise. So you would agree that that's not a fair
You think
election.
the laptop would have flipped the election for him?
Well, we're talking about 42,000 votes in 3 states, and I already cited a study that 1 in 4 swing voters would
A
have changed
study
their,
by who?
the Media Research
Clarence
Center.
Thomas's Winnebago buyer? Like, who funds these?
I just said by the independent, nonpartisan Media Research Center, where they said 1 out of 4 voters would have changed their opinion. So I just want to make sure we're clear, though. You agree our government should not interfere with our elections.
Well, they have to regulate them by nature. That's the states have to.
Well, no, hold on.
Otherwise, you wouldn't have an election because you need rules
I
and
said
a judge.
interfere. So should the federal government be able to restrict our speech during elections?
Well, when you have what happened in 2016, where Russian disinformation spreads all over Facebook and other platforms, then you have.
So wait,
it was not a lie.
who is-
It was not a lie.
It-
Read the Mueller report. Another Republican.
Wait, you realize
respected.
the Mueller report found that there was no tangible collusion between Donald Trump or the Russian Federation.
It wasn't about, but
hold
it
on,
wasn't just a collusion thing. It's a
I-
430-page report.
I
He
want to
talks
try to
about-
find common ground here, okay? I want to try to find common ground. Can we agree that 2020 was decided by very few votes?
No, because it wasn't.
Well, 42,000 votes is very few, right?
No.
So what is the percentage of 42,000?
It's not about George Bush and Al Gore were as close as ever in 2000. Al Gore conceded, said, you know what, I lost. There might be a challenge.
Hold on,
because he cared about the good of the country.
You know, Al Gore brought it all the way up to the Supreme Court, man, and he said that Bush was not the duly elected president.
And he could have gone further because
how do you go further than the Supreme Court?
The Supreme Court sent it back to judgment in the Florida State Supreme Court again, and Gore said, no, I'm not doing that. Just move on. Bush is the president. For the good of the country. Because people used to care about our country.
No, and of course, so are you trying to imply Trump doesn't care about the country?
Yes, that's absolutely what I'm implying. You think he sits in his gold room in Trump Tower and thinks, oh, how can I make things better for everyday Joe?
So let me ask one thing, and I'd love to have Tulsi. Just help me understand. So his business empire has been taken away from him. He's facing
because he broke the law.
Can I finish my thought? He's facing 700 years in federal prison. He's been shot once with multiple assassination attempts. Why keep running for president if he doesn't love the country?
Because 100 years from now in a history textbook, it's going to say Donald Trump's name, and that's what motivates narcissists.
Okay.
Look, I will say this. I hope you do some research because
I've done my research. You need to do your research.
Look, I will say this as kindly as I can. One day I hope you open your eyes because you've been significantly brainwashed on this topic. And I guess the final question I'll ask is this. If Donald Trump wins in 3 weeks, will you accept that as a legitimate result?
Yes.
Okay, I'll hold you to that.
That's the difference between me and you.
Okay, did Trump win in 2016?
Yes.
But you said that Russian interfered.
Russian interference had a role in the election, but Trump won fair and square. He had more votes and more. And notice how Hillary supporters didn't storm the Capitol.
Well, no, hold on. Hillary never conceded.
Yes, she did.
No, hold on.
She had a concession speech the day after the election. I watched it in middle school.
Hillary Clinton said Donald Trump was not the legitimate president of the United States.
That's one milked clip that is played all over the internet. Yeah, she had a concession speech. When's the Trump concession speech in 2020?